and welcome to the Ask the Expert webinar, 10 Things You Will Love About SAS Viya. My name is Tiago de Souza. I am a digital marketing specialist here at SAS, and I will serve as your moderator for today's event. Now, I would like to take a moment to introduce our presenters, Susan Kaler and Tapan Patel. Susan is a senior manager for the Global AI Product Marketing team. As such, she leads her team of AI product marketing professionals that cover machine learning, deep learning, computer vision, natural language processing, conversational AI, forecasting, optimization, and model management. That's a whole lot of things. Tapan Patel is a senior manager of marketing who leads, mentors, and manages the cloud analytics, data management, and intelligent decisioning product marketing team here at SAS. He drives marketing, content and digital strategy, development and execution for customers or prospects as they explore, evaluate, and engage with SAS in buying and adoption cycles. Now, before we get started, I wanted to let you know that we will share the slides after the webinar in the Ask the Expert community. There is a link to that in the resource widget, and it will be in our follow-up email after the webinar as well. With all of that out of the way, why don't we turn things over to the presenters so we can get started. Susan and Tapan, please take it away.
All right, thank you so much, Tiago. Welcome everyone to 10 Things You'll Love About SAS Viya. But I have a confession to make. I threw an extra one in there because I couldn't quite narrow it down to 10, so there's a bonus. But before we start talking about these favorite things, let's have you all participate in a quick poll. And the question is, where in the analytics lifecycle are you experiencing the most challenges? Your choices are data ops, and just to give you an idea about that, we're talking about data access, data quality, data prep, manipulation, transformation, etc. AI modeling, here's where we're talking about building the predictive models. And model ops, we're talking about the validation, testing, and deployment of models. Feel free to choose other, or if you say everything is going well for us, I would love to meet you. So please go ahead and take a few seconds here to make your response. And Tapan and I have our ideas, and we haven't quite placed a bet on which one, but we'll have to see what you in the audience tell us. I have my thoughts, and I know Tapan has his thoughts as well on this. Data ops, 44% data ops. Now, I have to say, I wasn't quite expecting that. AI modeling, 11%, model ops, 14, almost 15%, other 18% almost, and everything is going well. Congratulations to the 12% of the folks that everything is going well. Okay, so I am going to start. Thank you, Tiago, for those results. And I'm going to start us off by sharing my screen. And today, we are orienting these favorite things in Viya around the SAS analytics lifecycle, which is the reason why we asked that question in the beginning. And speaking of questions, when you start with your analytics projects, you have a business question in mind that you are wanting to have more information about. Questions like, is this drug safe? How do our customers feel? Healthcare, looking at perhaps what does this scan reveal? Financial institutions looking at, hey, what's the financial risk for these particular ventures? And ultimately, through starting with the question, going through the analytics lifecycle, which we'll get into a lot of detail in moving forward, you want to arrive at a decision. Okay, so we talked a little bit about data ops, but let me give you some more information about that. And data ops is really about, and that was interesting, by the way, that 44% of you had some challenges in the data ops area. Data ops provides an agile approach to data access, the quality, preparation, and governance. And what we're looking at in data ops, what we want to achieve is greater reliability, adaptability, speed, and collaboration, really with the efforts to operationalize that data and push it further through the analytics workflow. In the artificial intelligence stage, data scientists use a combination of techniques to take that data, understand that data, and use that data to build predictive models. And we're going to see more on this one later on. And lastly, model ops focuses on getting those AI models through validation, testing, and deployment as quickly as possible, but still having those quality results. It also focuses on model monitoring, the retraining of models, governance behind those models to ensure the best performance and transparent decisions. And this is where we see the rest of the story. Data management and data visualization are really part of the data ops stage, where the techniques in purple, so we look at statistics, machine and deep learning, forecasting, optimization, computer vision, and natural language processing are in the artificial intelligence stage. And lastly, we see that model deployment and decision management are a part of the model ops stage. And what I am going to do now is I am going to hand this over to Tappan to take us through data ops.
Thank you, Susan, for providing that quick kind of an introduction to the webinar and to the analytics lifecycle. What we're going to do, both of us, is take you through those most relevant kind of and spotlight features across the entire analytics lifecycle, starting with data ops. So within the data ops family, we have topics like data access, data preparation, data catalog, and data quality and cleansing kind of challenges, right? And as we saw, that users struggle with those as they want to create that data pipeline for downstream kind of analytics use, reporting use, or creating dashboards and putting models into production. Now, if you talk specifically about data catalogs and information catalogs, the current data environment, could be characterized as mostly kind of distributed or decentralized. So how do, the users and the CIOs and CDOs, the chief data officer, how can they address that kind of a sprawl and quickly find, inventory, trust, engage, and protect the data and information kind of assets? So data catalog is important for data producers and data consumers so that they can properly kind of inventory, search, discover, profile, and interpret the data, not just the data. And that is where the difference comes with SAS Information Catalog. We can also provide all of that for reports, analytic models, decisions, and other types of analytic assets. So when we talk about information catalog, it's all about running those discovery kind of agents, on the library of your information asset. Those agents crawl through all those libraries and collect all the data and metadata associated with those assets. So that's the first thing. The second is, once it is done, we can provide, standard kind of search capabilities so that you can enter any word or phrase to form a query, and that query will search at a table level or a column level kind of a thing. So providing that search kind of capability gives you or lets you look at all of your assets and the metadata associated with it. You can also provide like a syntax kind of a search also, right? It operates, right now it operates at a table level, but the purpose over here is to get you and provide a detail level view of a particular asset. And when we say detail level view, we're talking about the statistics associated with that asset, the description, the history, the properties, and all of the data quality kind of measure. Like, for example, we can provide how many rows are complete, how much are they unique, what are the most common and least common kind of value, and all of the other descriptive kind of measure to identify the the information about that asset. And in addition to that, we can also provide semantic kind of classification, whether that asset is sensitive, private, or not. And all of those information is important before we go into the next step, and that is where data preparation and data cleansing happens. So if you go to the next slide, we can talk more about that step. SAS Studio is our, the key application when it comes to delivering that data access, data management, data preparation kind of capabilities. You can access your files, libraries, existing programs, write new programs using SAS Studio. You can organize your work in flows. You can use predefined kind of tasks in SAS Studio so that you can generate that code for building those repeatable, collaborative kind of data pipelines. So in addition to writing and running your own programs, you can also use, as I mentioned, the predefined kind of tasks within SAS Studio. And those tasks are based on like SAS procedures and provide access to all of your common data and analytic kind of procedures. So, SAS Studio provides that great kind of foundation, but we are here today to talk about SAS Studio Analyst, which is an add-on component, separately licensable component, which allows you to extract, cleanse, and transform that data. Some of the features I have highlighted over here are we just added it this year to this new product, which is the SAS Studio Analyst. So for example, you can quickly kind of insert rows step, which allows you to add rows to an output table. You can append the rows, you can to an existing output table, you can replace existing rows in your existing output table, for example. You can branch rows, which allows you to split a table in two different output tables based on conditions you can specify. You can also filter the rows, which allows you to subset a row from your input table and write those subsetted rows to an output table, for example. So all kinds of different things you can do to manipulate that data in order to prepare that pipeline you're talking about for downstream kind of analytics and for downstream reporting kind of use cases. You can also create some very specific custom steps if you have unique data transformation kind of requirements. And once those custom steps are created, you can share it within your broader user community so that they can be reused, for example, resulting in saving your time and resource kind of saving. So here we have provided a quick overview of two new products from SAS, Information Catalog and SAS Studio Analyst, which will help you build that data catalog kind of capabilities, providing that consistent view for your data. And as you get those views, as you get your data access as you access the data, how can you prepare it so that you can build that data pipeline for downstream kind of use before you can build your reports or build your dashboards or build your models. So speaking of model building, which is the next step in the analytics lifecycle, I'm going to invite back Susan so that she can take you through that phase, the next important phase of the analytics lifecycle. Susan?
All right, thank you, Tappan. And we are now into the AI part of the analytics lifecycle. And the first thing that I love is really Sas Visual Analytics. And all of these things that you're seeing that Tappan and I are discussing are relatively new. You may not be aware, but in SAS Viya, we follow a continuous delivery approach where the features are delivered, new features are delivered on a monthly basis. So what you're seeing is literally hot off the presses, having come out within the last few months on that. So in Visual Analytics, a couple of the new things are embedded insights, and that's really a category of capabilities that we have in SAS that allows you to take those insights that you find in SAS Viya and publish them to custom apps. You may have a corporate portal and even mobile apps as well. And the embedded insights can also be integrated with other tools, solutions, processes in your organization to deliver whatever that customized experience is that you want to have. Now, the Visual Analytics SDK is a collection of JavaScript libraries and which currently provides support for report components. So you can embed insights into, those insights can be in entire reports, individual report pages, or even individual data visualization objects such as charts. And these insights are then pulled from your reports and can then be included directly into your websites and portals where your users are already most likely spending their time. And lastly, by building integrated solutions using the SAS embedded insights, your users can go from insight to action within one application by initiating processes both in SAS Viya and other systems. So you may also be taking advantage of Esri for geoanalytics, for example. And you don't have to worry or think about the embedded insights becoming stale because they are connected to SAS Visual Analytics. They're connected to that report that they were copied from. So now I want to talk about SAS visual data mining and machine learning. And there are some super cool things that have come out in this product in the last few months. The first one is reinforcement learning. Now, you may not be familiar with reinforcement learning, so let me give you an explanation of that. So with reinforcement learning, you can solve sequential decision-making problems. You may have heard about reinforcement learning used to play checkers, backgammon, Othello, Go, etc. The long-term reward is obviously in those cases to win the game, but getting there can take many different paths of moves. And as you continue to play those games and develop expertise, it's really based on the experiences of continuously playing that game. And you may think, well, what do games have to do with this? Well, games with win, lose, draw outcomes are not too dissimilar from real-world problems that are in robotics, process control, healthcare, finance, trading, and much more. Now, getting down into a more technical level is the supported models within SAS include fitted queue networks. You may have heard this as FQN, deep queue networks, or DQN, and actor-critic models. And you may also wish to configure a custom environment for those state action pairs and rewards. And it's through that rewards that the system is actually learning. So I am going to show you a video here. We will see if I can show that. There we go. We are looking at the ever popular cart pull example, which simulates a cart on a track which is trying to balance a pole upright. And here we're using a deep queue network and a Jupyter notebook to illustrate the cart pull task. And you'll see we're going through that. Hang on a sec. I realized that I clicked one too many times. So let me go back. I may not be able to get this video to play. Okay, now it is playing. My apologies. So let me repeat. So we're looking at the popular cart pull example, which is really a cart on a track where you're trying to balance a pole upright. And here we're using the deep queue network in a Jupyter notebook and to illustrate the cart pull task. And as it was previously showing, you can see that the system was improving because that pole was being better balanced in that cart. Okay, now I'm going to move on to what is another really emerging machine learning algorithm called Gans. And this is generative adversarial networks, which is what the Gans come from. Now, Gans is the technology behind the deep fakes that we've all seen out there. But a more useful purpose for Gans is to generate synthetic data, such as tabular data or image data, often known as style Gans, which can be fed into deep learning models. Now, this is useful because you may not have enough of your own data to be input into the deep learning models, or you may not want to use real data due to privacy concerns. So in this video, we're looking at a style GAN generator in a Python notebook to create the image data. Now, it should be noted that Gans runs best with GPUs, and here we have the encoded images, and so you can see that. Now, we say GPU, that is true because the Gans are compute intensive. So I'm really happy to have reinforcement learning, to have Gans. We are going to move into interactive decision trees. Now, decision trees have been around for a long time. They are one of the top machine learning algorithms used by data scientists. And decision trees, for those of you who may not know, use supervised learning to classify problems. Now, even if you're not a data scientist, chances are you can interpret what that visual output from a decision tree, what that means. However, most of the times when you're using decision trees, and I've done this many times, you press a button and off it goes doing the auto magic calculations. And you don't get to easily control where the tree is split or where it is pruned until now. So we have in VDMML an interactive decision tree. And what that means is that provides the capability for the user to apply their business knowledge to identify where to split, prune, and train a decision tree. So let's take a look at how this works. And before I start the video, just let me set the context. In this example, I'm looking at sales by region. And I've seen the decision tree, and I've realized that what I see in the tree is not what I think is best for the task at hand. So I need to change that. So what I am doing in this video is specifying the branches whereby I want the tree to split. And what we can see is that the tree has now been split into 3 branches based on the regions that I specified. So those are interactive decision trees. And here's the bonus one that I snuck in, but don't tell the producers this. So this is a report to explain how a model was developed and its relevant characteristics in plain English. So this is easily shared outside of the data science team. And this report includes information such as the project summary, the project notes, the most common variables across the models, and the assessment metrics. So this is all bundled up nicely into one PDF. So we're going to take a look at this. And in the picture-in-picture, you see my colleague Brett. So let's hear what he has to say about this exciting feature.
Create a report for your project in PDF form. So it's really easy to export and share the insights from your modeling projects with others outside of the SAS environment.
Okay. So if you are also an Enterprise Miner user, which is what I was before I started using VDMML, you will recognize this as being something very similar to the reporter node in Enterprise Miner. And the last thing that I am going to talk about, the last favorite feature, is SAS Conversation Designer. So now we're moving into the conversational AI space. And in case you're not aware, SAS Conversation Designer provides you with the ability to configure chatbots within the SAS Viya environment and or seamlessly integrate with external systems to roll your bots out to the world. And so what has happened recently is that the chatbot can also interact with events that happen outside the chatbot. So for example, if I am shopping on a website of a clothing retailer, I'm having an interaction with a chatbot. I get my questions answered about a particular piece of clothing. The chatbot can say, hey, you know what? Would you like to add that item to the cart? And I can say yes, and voila, that item is added to the cart. So that really does improve my overall shopping experience. So that's available through a chatbot SDK. Now you can also interact with chatbots in Microsoft Teams. So you can ask, you can train the chatbot to get answers for you, access reports, and even leverage analytics to increase your productivity. So that's all of what I think are the really top things in the AI stage. Now what I'm going to do is hand it over to Tappan to take you through the newest model ops features.
Thank you, Susan, for providing a quick kind of a rundown of some of the exciting spotlight kind of features we have added in last 6 to 9 months when it comes to AI and different AI kind of modeling techniques, whether it comes related to conversational AI or data visualization and likes of it, right? So definitely it is targeted towards the business analyst, the citizen data scientist, and the data scientist community. But as we saw in the poll we conducted in the beginning of the webinar, model ops was the second biggest area where there are a lot of challenges our customers are facing. And organizations are measuring more and more on how many of your analytic assets are kept into production. And in addition to, how quickly can you develop those analytic assets? So putting things into production, integrating with business rules, and how can you deploy it very quickly in a scalable cloud kind of an environment, for example. All of those things are equally kind of important from an analytics lifecycle perspective as you go through that journey, as you mature your analytic processes, and try to meet the needs of many different types of business users. So SAS Model Manager, as the slide is showing it over here, is our flagship offering when it comes to streamlining your registration, validation, deployment, governance, and monitoring of your analytic assets so that you can operationalize your analytic and AI models in many different systems and for you to take decisions, right? So some of the interesting kind of capabilities and features we have brought over here over the course of the last 6 to 9 months is, now, of course, we were able to support Python models and other open source models before. We have added more capabilities and we have added more automation to it. So, for example, we can now directly support, Python models and R models so that you can register, validate, score, and publish those models in addition to SAS models, for example. We can also we can convert like PMML models and Onyx models to standard kind of SAS model types and manage it as part of your model deployment and model management processes. So, in a nutshell, combining your open source models with your SAS models, doing those project comparison, doing the assessments, and defining and selecting which model you should put it into production. And once those are put into production, how can you monitor those? Those are the significant steps we have added in from a capability standpoint in the SAS Model Manager. The second biggest thing is, of course, as part of our global strategic partnership with Microsoft, we are providing tight integration with a lot of Azure services, and one of those is, of course, integration with Azure Machine Learning. So we can now push SAS models and Python models and register it, validate it, and deploy it within Azure Machine Learning. So it opens up a lot of new processes for our customers and prospects, right? If they have already standardized on using Azure as their cloud deployment option, or they have standardized on other Microsoft products, the recipe and the intellectual property through SAS models or open source models like Python can now be used within that Microsoft kind of an environment. So we are extending that intellectual property to joint customers who are owning both SAS and Microsoft. Again, as I said, it provides more opportunities for collaboration across different enterprise. And then finally, from a model monitoring kind of a standpoint, as I said, deploying is just one aspect of the model ops, right? We have to also make sure that whatever you have deployed, you're able to monitor so that you're getting value out of your models on a consistent kind of a basis. What we already provide, we always provided, out-of-box kind of performance monitoring kind of report so that you can compare the performance of multiple models in a similar kind of a same report, for example. You can quickly see how your champion model is still kind of outperforming your challenger model, for example. But now what we have done is that we have provided, custom kind of report capabilities. You can also now, this performance chart, you can add natural language so that users can better understand how to interpret their model performance. Customization using some of the SAS Visual Analytics embedded web components are also supported. This will this will help augment, your current kind of performance reports, and it will augment your model monitoring kind of efforts so that as conditions quickly change, as you have drift in your models, as you have concept drift, you can make adjustments in your current models or you can build new models. So that's in a nutshell some of the cool capabilities we have brought when it comes to model management. If you go to the next slide, many of our customers have use cases around fraud or claims processing or even like campaign management. In many cases, they rely on integration. They rely on building business rules and authoring it and processing and providing that governance around it. So SAS Intelligent Decisioning is the product which allows you to do that. It also allows you to integrate with your analytic models so that you can execute those models and automate some of those decision-making capabilities, whether it is related to taking your best action, or whether it is related to credit card services or fraud prevention, and in many other types of business decision, there is always a need for combining your analytical models with your business rules. So what we have done over here is, how can we provide that governance around a particular version of your decision? As users are developing and testing and reviewing and approving those decisions, we can provide that approval workflow around it. So we provide out-of-a-box kind of capability for role-based governance around your decision logic, and approve it and provide an update in your design environment before you put it into production. This provides a lot of that transparency around how decisions and rules are authored, who reviews it, when is it deployed, when do we need to update it, so it provides that visibility around your effective kind of workflow, right? In any kind of decision making and model building, for example, there are many types of users. There is a reviewer, there's a deployer, there's an administrator, and each of those people play a role in proper execution of that model and proper execution of that decision. So those are the capabilities. That's the another big capability we have rolled out, providing the workflow around not just the model, but also around that decision. And then finally, you might have many of your repositories standardized on like GitLab or GitHub, for example, providing you can publish the decisioning workflow and rule sets to Git. So we're trying to expand and integrate into your repository frameworks you might have standardized on. So defining that publishing destinations allows you to reuse their decision workflows, for example. So that was an additional capability we have added as part of intelligent decisioning work. So if you, combining the model management and the models and combining the business rules and decisioning framework through intelligent decisioning provides that well-rounded kind of model ops kind of an approach to put the models and your rule sets into production so that you can take, you can automate some of the decisions or you can augment your current human-based kind of decisions. So if you go to the next slide, we have another brand new Spotlight kind of capability, which is available either through SAS Model Manager or SAS Intelligent Decisioning product. So SAS Container kind of a runtime is a lightweight kind of an OCI compliant Docker container so that it allows you to execute your models and decisions. So models developed in SAS Viya can now be published through any kind of container registry you might have. And once it is published in a container registry, users can take advantage of your cloud infrastructure so that you can deploy the applications with smallest kind of footprint available. So this is all about how can you take the models and the decisions, wrap it around, put it in a Docker kind of a container registry and publish it through a cloud infrastructure. So this allows you to fully utilize and quickly execute the largest number of models. You can quickly do that and properly manage it. So you might have standardized a cloud infrastructure provided. You might have already your IT might already have a Docker container available. So how can you put that intellectual property in there in a quick kind of a manner? That is what the SAS Container Runtime allows you to do that. Again, the benefit and the value we provide over here is, it has a minimal kind of a footprint. It is created for each individual kind of a model. So each container can include only one model, and you can push that model out and publish it and deploy it in cloud, for example. The container includes all the libraries and files which are required to process that model and deploy that model. It has no dependency, so it's self-contained, right? If an update is required, so say, for example, if you want to revise a model, you just promote a new container, right? So that's that immutable kind of a design concept included in there. And then, as I said, you have flexible kind of deployment option. You can deploy the container runtime to any of those cloud providers you might have standardized on. Or you can even put it on an on-premises environment as long as it's compliant to that open container kind of an initiative. And then it can also support batch or real-time kind of a scoring needs. So those are some of the benefits which comes with this deployment option, which is called SAS Container Runtime. So those are some of the three new Spotlight capabilities we have rolled out as part of SAS Viya from a model ops kind of a standpoint. And then finally, if you go to the next slide, as Susan mentioned, all of these capabilities are released in a CI/CD fashion now, continuous integration, continuous delivery kind of a fashion. And we have adopted as this is a refresher kind of a slide, as some of you might be already aware or may not be aware. So it's a refresher for all of you, is that we have adopted this common release level single versioning kind of a system. We are releasing, these capabilities on a month-to-month basis, and we call that as a stable release. And we also have, we can also, it's also available on a 6-month release cadence, which is called an LTS, a long-term stable kind of a release, or long-term support release. And as the slide shows, long-term support release has version numbers like 2021.1 or 2021.2 and so on. And the monthly stable releases are numbered as 2021.1.5, for example. So both long-term support and stable releases you are seeing out here on this slide are the latest ones. So the 2020.1 came out in May 2021. And so with this continuous kind of a delivery model, all products which we discussed today and all products available on SAS Viya continue to share that same kind of a release or version number. So when a customer order is created, all products will be from a same release instance. They will either come from if you have chosen a stable release cadence, it will come from a stable release cadence. Or if it is LTS, it will come from an LTS cadence. And then accordingly, our support policies have also changed. We will support all SAS Viya releases will support for current release plus 3 prior kind of releases. So for example, if you are on a long-term support release cadence, you should upgrade at least once every 2 years, for example. So that was a quick summary from, release standpoint on how we are releasing all of these features on either monthly basis or on a 6-month kind of a basis as part of SAS Viya releases. If you go to the next slide, I'm going to wrap it up pretty quickly.